Okay, Dr. Bounceback, Dudley Thurmond, welcome to the Empower Network.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited. When Arletta recommended that we talk, I interview you. I looked at your page. I was like, okay. And then we had that little brief talk. Was it
Right.
yesterday, the day before? And I just saw you starting to get worked up. And you're like, okay, don't get me going, man.
I was going to take off.
Okay, so let's talk about bouncing back. So where does your name come from first? Where's the handle come from?
So the handle comes from, so a mentor gave me that name. Okay. He gave me that name probably 6 years ago or so. I had already been speaking for a while, but he was like, man, your life has been like a movie. You've had to overcome so many things. It's like you were hit with hardship and challenge time after time after time after time. We got to give you a name. I like Dudley, but man, we got to give you a name. And he was just like, "It's back, Dr. Bounceback." And I was like, there we go. I'm Dr. Bounceback, and I've been Dr. Bounceback ever since.
Yeah, you've bounced back from a lot because I even looked at a little bit of your story, the stuff I could find. Now, does your story start when you were a kid, or where's your story really start
So
from?
my story begins in Hamilton, Ohio. Okay. I was born into poverty. I was born into a very impoverished environment, very criminal, just infested town. The crime rate was very high. So this small town where I'm from, it was one of Al Capone's lay low spots. Okay. When Al Capone would do his stuff up in Chicago, he would go down here and lay low. There's even a historic hotel down there named called Al Capone Hotel to this day. My grandfather was one of his drivers when he came to town, just to drive him around. That was all. He was connected with those guys. So that energy trickled over into this town, and it was bad. But that was just the first challenge, was being born into that poverty-stricken environment. The second challenge that I was dealing with right away in life was I was born with some hearing issues. So I was kind of hearing impaired, and I couldn't hear very well. So, at 2, 3, 4, even 5 years old, when my grandpa, my grandparents, and my mom thought I was ignoring them, I wasn't really ignoring them. I couldn't hear what they were saying. So I got the short end of the stick a few times with that. But there was a surgery to get the hearing issue under wraps. But I had developed speech impediment, and it took speech classes and years to overcome that speech impediment. So that's just early in. That's just the first challenges in my earlier years, but it's a trip because I speak about resilience, overcoming, turning setbacks into comebacks. That's what I help people do. Overcome the challenge, not just overcome the challenge, but how do you overcome the challenge and turn it into an opportunity? What do you take away from it? How do you develop that mindset? So I speak a lot from resilience and mindset. And we go through things, and I believe that those things, they set up a play for an opportunity later on in life at some point. Because who would have ever thought that being born with hearing issues, having to take speech classes to learn how to speak properly, will one day guide me to a stage speaking in front of hundreds and thousands of people, motivating and inspiring them, and orating, and delivering, content verbally. I bet no one thought I would end up being a speaker. I sure didn't at that age, the way I got teased.
Wow. Oh, so you've been through the whole teasing thing. That's not
Oh
fun.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Oh
not
yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
it was rough. It was rough growing up with the list and not being able to pronounce words right and say things. And I was real soft spoken. I was kind of shy. So yeah, tease definitely. Tease definitely.
You certainly have built yourself into a resilient person. Like you train people in a numerous ways because you also do is it boot camps?
Yeah, yeah. So I have a resiliency boot camp coming up, and
Yeah.
so that boot camp is subsequently to help people enhance their mindset, strengthen their mindset and become more resilient. And so I believe that becoming more resilient and strengthening that mindset has to do with tapping into things, some things that you have to let go in order to grow. So that's one of the things that we're going to be doing. We're going to be identifying certain things that we would like to release and let go. And we're going to do some, some shadow work on that. We're going to get out into nature. Okay. We're going to go on a hike. I have a private trail that we're going to hike on at a nature center. And we're going to do some meditation, some breath work. So it's not going to be hardcore exercise and workout, but it is a resiliency boot camp. I'm calling it a boot camp because it can call for a more intense environment, but this one that I have coming up on May 27th, it isn't going to call for a very intense environment. It's going to be a relaxed environment, and we're going to just simply work on ourselves. Yeah.
You've obviously done a lot of work on yourself because you've had a few evolutions since high school, obviously.
I have.
Yeah, you faced a lot of stuff. And then what have you noticed every time you evolve? Like, what are you noticing in that process? Like the metamorphosis process, like what have you been leaving behind? What have you been picking up?
So when I evolve, when I morph, I try to leave behind everything that didn't benefit me in that season. And I take everything that I've learned that can benefit me in the next season with me. So overcoming challenges and turning them into opportunities is all about identifying the lessons, okay? What are the learning lessons? What are the sure takeaways? Boom, challenge happens, adversity happens. You're being smacked right in the face with a challenge right now. You get a crazy phone call, something happens. You get into a car accident, you fall off your ladder, something happens to one of your kids. You're going to have to identify immediately what the positive takeaways are from that experience, or you're going to squander in the negative. So perspective is a lot of it. As human beings, we have a very large number of thoughts every single day, and like 85% of those thoughts are negative, so I believe that we have to, I call it build ourselves a positive thinking toolkit. Okay. So if we know that adversity is going to hit us regardless of anything, challenges are going to come. Everyone's going to be hit with it at some point in time. How do you stay equipped? How do you stay prepared for when that challenge comes? I tell people, and I always encourage people to build a positive thinking toolkit. But what is a positive thinking toolkit? A positive thinking toolkit are the resources that you immediately go to when you're knocked off your rocker by a challenge. What is your favorite song that makes you happy? What is your favorite motivational speech? What is your favorite quote? What is your favorite affirmation? Where are you storing these things at? Do you have a folder on your phone in your notepad where you have all these things listed at? To where you can go to them at will call? That's a positive thinking toolkit. So I encourage everyone that I work with to first create a positive thinking toolkit. And that's your toolkit of where you go to when those negative thoughts come into your mindset, when you are being struck by a challenge, because these are things that I had to learn how to do early in, because we haven't even gotten to half of what I went through later in life, and it's been time after time after time after time. So I had to create a recipe, which I wrote a book, The Recipe for Resilience. I had to create a recipe for turning those challenges into opportunities, turning those setbacks into comebacks.
Yeah, clearly there's been some catalysts because no one just decides one day I'm going to write a recipe. So take us to the book. What sparked that? What was the need you had?
So it originally was Overcoming Life's Challenges. That was the name of the book originally. The name evolved to The Recipe for Resilience. When I finally revised it and got it out, I wrote it several years ago. And a mentor of mine, he had a publishing company, and he encouraged me to take that material, revise it, turn it into a piece, and put it out to the marketplace. And that's when I revised it, and it became The Recipe for Resilience. Yeah, and that's when I started keynoting on resilience. So I do have a keynote that I delivered that's titled The Recipe for Resilience. Okay. And I talk about those challenges because growing up, I was an athlete. I was a young football player. I had a really high skill set to play the game of football, but I had an underdeveloped mindset to play the game of life. I didn't realize that going through high school, that football and education made a great combination. I didn't realize that football could be the caveat to take me places in life that I never could imagine going. Football could have been the caveat, the vehicle to take me to the Division I college, to take me to the NFL. And that's where I was projected to go. Everyone projected me to go to a Division I college straight out of high school. Everyone projected me to go to the NFL straight from that Division I college because I had this extremely high skill set. But my mindset for life was way down here. I now believe that you have to lead with mindset. You have to develop the right mindset. You have to know what you want to accomplish, why you want to accomplish it, what you're willing to do to accomplish it. And then the skill sets will follow. And mindset has a lot to do with overcoming challenges. Mindset has a lot to do with accomplishing anything in life. I mean, you see people go to college and get degrees, masters, doctorates, all these accolades, and there's still no success after. What is it? What is it that's keeping them from succeeding? It's that winner's mindset. And so I speak from resilience and mindset 80, 90% of the time, because that's what I've had to tap into to overcome my challenges. But my biggest challenge that I've ever had to overcome in my life was me. And once I overcame myself, that's when doors started opening up. As I told you, I wasn't able to go to the Division I college straight out of high school because of my decision making, because of my grades, because of my schooling. And I was down on myself over that. But I did get opportunities. You know, I went to a junior college. There was a high-ranked junior college. I was going to go to a Division I college from there. I went about a year out of high school, threw that opportunity in the trash. I mean, I totally did what I did in high school, just didn't take advantage of the opportunity. But a year after that, I got blessed with another opportunity to go to a Division II school to play football, to play football and chase that dream that I've always had and get to where I've always known I could get to. And this is probably the first time that I truly took it serious. And what I had to do, I had to go to a Division II school because my NCAA clearinghouse clock had started rolling already because I had been in and out a couple of junior colleges. Over the course of a couple of years. And so the only way for me to get all my eligibility was to go to a Division II school, and I could play for 4 years and I would still have a shot at the NFL. And so we started negotiating me going to that Division II school in the spring. And so we started our negotiation in the spring. They looked at my transcript, looked at everything and said, you're going to have to go to summer school. You're going to have to get a B average, and you're going to have to be ready to play football in the fall. Like, we want you to be ready when you come. And so I buckled down that summer. I can remember every day I studied. I did homework and I worked out. I did this probably 6 days out of the week for a whole summer. And for the first time, I was truly taking football serious. Like, I can remember the way the grass smelled every day when I worked out after studying. I can remember getting rained on at the field training. Like, I can remember all these things. And I can remember the last day of summer school. I had to go and get my grades. The grades revealed that I had succeeded. Football camp was in 3 days. I was going to be packing up my car and leaving in 3 days to go to this Division II school to play football. Lo and behold, I went to a party that night on the day I finished summer school. And that night was the night that I almost lost my life. I found myself in a hospital emergency room fighting for my life, for being brutally stabbed with a 3-foot-long sword that went completely through my body, this close to my spine and my back, and it came out of my stomach. What is the irony? What is coincidence that on the day you finish summer school, you go out to a party that night and you get stabbed and almost lose your life, but for sure, you lose your opportunity. And I was a person that thought football was everything. I didn't know how I was going to live without it. That's why I was chasing it so hard at that point. So not only did I not have my dream, it slid down the drain, but my life almost slid down the drain right behind it. And so I had to recover from that injury. I had to recover spiritually, emotionally, and mentally from my dream being stripped away from me. What is the first thing a person has to tap into when it's time to overcome a horrific challenge? They're going to have to tap into their mindset. They're going to have a specific mindset, a specific target, and they're going to have to know exactly what it is that they want out of this situation. And that's what I had to do. So before I could do anything physically, I had to do it in my mind first. I had to visualize myself doing it. I weaned myself off of painkillers 2 days after. I lost 70 pounds and was pushed around in a wheelchair for 3 weeks. So I did this natural. I bit the pain every single day. And it was one of the most challenging things that I've had to ever do in my entire life. But I'm gonna tell you this, months went by. Um, I was rehabbing myself, the same guys that I trained with all summer for football. They were helping me with rehab. I wanted to do my own thing. And I mean, 4 or 5 months went by and I was stronger than I was before the accident even happened. I was bench pressing 500 pounds. I was back in full tag, but I had a vengeance. I had something to prove out there in the streets. And that's what had me down the wrong road for several years to follow. I was continuously bumping my head, living life without a vision. And it said that a life without a vision is a life not worth living. I kept going in that same direction till I found myself in a courtroom, standing before a judge, and the judge was about to read a verdict back on my life. I had found myself in a big situation, and my life depended on it. I was looking at 17 years in prison. And through that stretch, through that from the stabbing to that day that I stood in that courtroom, I had been through a motorcycle accident that mangled me. I had been through a car accident. My left eyelid, the eyelashes are pasted on by plastic surgery right now. You probably wouldn't know. I experienced extreme brain trauma, has some swelling in there. My eye is never going to be right for the rest of my life. And so I'm being hit with these challenges back to back to back. And then this big one comes to where this judge is about to read this verdict back on my life. And the judge read the verdict back, and the verdict back came unexpected from. I mean, my lawyer didn't expect it. My family didn't expect it. I didn't expect it. But to a certain degree, I did, because I knew that it was finally time for me to slow down and submit to my call and my purpose in life. I was feeling it. It was in me. It was a burning desire. I knew something fishy was going to happen that day. And the judge read the verdict back. We find the defendant, Dudley Thurmond, guilty. He is looking at 17 years in prison, and he is to be taken into custody immediately. And that's when my heart sank. And that's when I started to replay my whole life. And that's when I started to think about all the challenges that I've been through my whole life. I started thinking about being born with the hearing issues, being born into poverty, being stabbed. I started thinking about the times when was called to leadership and had to display leadership and speak and do all these things. When I was coaching youth football, it all was just playing in my head. And they threw me in this cold cell. And for the first time in my life, I had no one to pay attention to but myself. This little aluminum foil mirror, I looked at myself in that mirror and I asked myself 1,000 questions. What are you doing here, Dudley? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? If you could impact the world in a positive way, what would it be? If you could do anything to trade for getting out of here, what would that be? How would you make impact in the world? And that's when my light started to shine internally. That's when the call and the purpose that's on my life started to become visible to me. I started seeing it. I started thinking about when I was 14 years old on Youth Sunday at church, when I had to deliver the announcements, and the pastor came to me afterwards and said, "Man, you're amazing. How'd you do that? You're going to speak one day." I started thinking about when my mom called me one day and said my grandma had a dream that I was speaking in front of thousands of people. This is when I'm in the streets. Okay. I started thinking about that summer that I had summer school and I had my first public speaking class and I got a standing ovation with every speech. Like all this started making sense and the lights started going off. And I immediately shifted my way of thinking and my whole life changed. And I sat there for 2 months waiting on sentencing. Went to sentencing and the DA was like, we want to give Dudley 10 years. The judge said, no, we're not going to give him 10 years. I'm going to only give him 7. I'm like, wow, but I was still hurt. I was still broken because I had never been in that position. I had never been in, looking at time like that before. I've been in trouble before, but it never got there to that point. And so he said, we're going to give him 7 years. And she sent me to a facility in Colorado, because I did move to Colorado at 7 years old. I failed to tell you guys that. I moved to Colorado at 7 years old, Denver, Colorado, and that's where I was raised. My mom took me, my 2 brothers, my sister out there with 1 change of clothes, 1 Greyhound bus ticket, lived with my aunt, 10 people in a 1-bedroom apartment. We got it together though. But she sent me to a facility, and this facility had 1,800 inmates. And out of every facility in the state of Colorado, this was the only facility that had a program of the magnitude that they had. They had this program called Choices, where they brought in educators, parents, youth into the facility. And these inmates, these 7 to 8 inmates, put on an 8-hour presentation. They spent government dollars on helping these guys hone their public speaking skills. They taught them how to life coach. They had one-on-one sessions with the parents, the educators. It was something like I've never seen. It was amazing. I've never seen anything like that. Video, audio, props on the stages. Like, these guys were speaking. I'm talking about polished speeches, no beyond scared straight. They were polished speakers. Okay. And I wasn't even at the facility for 2 weeks, and these guys started randomly coming to me, asking me to be a part of this program. They had never heard me talk. They had never heard me open my mouth. I was always quiet, walking around. They just said I just fit the criteria. They said, you look like you should be in this program. It was really my purpose calling me. It was really my purpose calling me at a place where I was finally quiet and still and couldn't run. And it was time for me to submit. And so a few weeks went by. I eventually filled out the little application, went to their audition. They made me speak to them, and they were just blown away and wanted to know how long I had been speaking. I'm like, I don't know much about it. I've been living a whole different life than this. And it was like, we want you. We want you to be on our team. And I opened up the next presentation with my personal history, and that's when my life was changed forever. That was 14 years ago. I opened up that presentation, and I delivered my personal history, and I saw all the lives that were impacted that day. I saw all these adults crying and the kids crying, and it drove me to tears, because it was revealed to me that all the challenges that I had been through in my life was for this moment. This was the purpose for it. This was the reason. I was chosen as a strong person by God to endure these challenges, to be able to help others through theirs. And it dawned on me. And then the unthinkable happened. I became one of the program's top speakers. The judge brought me back to court in 120 days and suspended my whole sentence, threw it away, parole, everything, threw it away, and said, you got work to do. Bye, you get out, you're on the streets. And I've been speaking ever since. Universities, schools, organizations. I've coached youth football for 17 years. I've won a lot of championships. I've developed a lot of young athletes, leading with mindset first. I got involved with Toastmasters International, started competing in speaking competitions, started winning speaking competitions. Just the list goes on. The list goes on. And my life changed, and I overcame myself from me identifying that purpose, that call, but me also creating that vision of what I wanted my life to look like, and just jumping, just going out there and going after it. Mindset first. And that's how I became Dr. Bounceback.
Oh, can we just sit here for a second, Dudley?
Yes, sir.
I'll sit here for a sec. Wow. Lots of comments. I just watched the movie. I just watched the movie of your life, and I can see why Loretta's watching, or she was. I can see why Loretta wants you in the academy, because it's like, I can see it's like, you're a big magnet. You are this powerful magnet that God's using Wow. So I just want to, yeah, okay, well, I want to support you, whatever that's going to look like. Can people just reach out here on Facebook and connect with you? Are you cool with that?
Yeah, I'm cool with that. They can reach out to me on Facebook, on any of my social media outlets. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
LinkedIn is Dudley Thurmond. Everywhere else is going to be Dudley Thurmond, or it's going to be a Dr. Bounceback attached to it. There's only one Dr. Bounceback. Um, and if you Google, you can find that. And people can contact me on any of those platforms, and we can dialogue and see if I can help them.
And Dudley Thurmond. Thurmond is Thurmond. Thur. Yeah, MOND.
Yes, sir.
You've got a lot of things to help coach, teach people, and inspire them. You came to the planet loaded with gifts. I'm happy to see that you are realizing your gifts.
Yes, sir. It's important. It's a big thing. It's really important because we all have gifts. This is the thing about gifts. Your gifts and your purpose are two totally different things. We are all born with gifts that are to be used to impact the world in some way, in a positive way. And if we identify those gifts, if we use those gifts to impact the world in a positive way, then in return, God blesses us through our gifts. I believe that. And I believe that that's how I was blessed, and that's how I continue to be blessed. No matter what has happened since I was freed 14 years ago, this is the one thing that I will never turn away from, is impacting people in a positive way, because I owe my life to it. I could still be working on 17 years right now. So this is one thing that I cannot turn away from. No matter what hardships, what sicknesses. I've had emergency surgeries. I got issues that people don't even know about right now that I fight daily. But this one thing, impacting people, I'll never turn away from it, because I know that God put me here for a reason. And that reason is what you see me doing right now. So I do have some gifts to help people move forward, overcome, transition, transform more from who they are to who they want to be, tap into their purpose. Yeah, I'm a firm believer. I've watched the gift work too many times.
You are a blessing, Dudley. You have blessed me today, and anyone else that's been watching. There's a bunch of comments, but you're an absolute blessing. So I'm so thankful here, and I'm thankful for this opportunity to, help tell your story a little bit, get it out there for people that haven't heard about you yet.
All right. Yes, sir. Thank you. I want to thank you for having me on also, man. And I think you've tapped into your gift and your purpose also. And that's what you're operating in right now. I've watched a few episodes, and you're doing it. You're truly tapping into your gifts and your purpose through this platform, of impacting people through being the connecting piece for those that need this, but they need this person or need this knowledge to help them through that. I feel like you're definitely operating in a form of uniqueness. Yeah, because some people aren't connectors and networkers. Some of us just aren't. I believe that's a gift. So I appreciate you for having me on, man, and allowing me to potentially positively impact your guest and your platform and your audience.
My joy. And we have a lot more impact that we're gonna see if we can give you more exposure to, because people need to hear what you have to say. And there's people that you need to meet, that whether here,
Definitely.
we want to connect you with them as well, so that you guys can just explode on the planet, man.
Definitely. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, we'll wrap it here. If you've been watching or listening to the Empower Network, you've been listening to Dr. Bounceback, Dudley Thurmond, Thurmond. Dudley, you're an absolute blessing. There's a bunch of comments. Please respond when you can. And thanks everyone for being here. Dudley, you are a rock star, and I'm looking forward to seeing you rise even more.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And will I be able to see the comments in the replay?
Yes, you will, and I'll shoot you the links right now. After, well, in
Okay.
okay. Awesome.
Okay. Sounds good.
For now.